Hi everyone, welcome back to Insti Unfiltered. For today's episode, we have Sakthi Priya Amirtharaj, who graduated with a BTech in Engineering Physics from IIT Madras in 2017. She then worked as a product engineer with the Hindu Step Group for 2 years before deciding to get back into physics and academia and began her doctoral program at EPFL, Lausanne, Switzerland. I'm so glad to have her on here today, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about your insti and post-insti experience, Sakthi Priya.
Hi everyone, I'm Shakti. So yeah, indeed, I'm doing my PhD now at EPFL. So yeah, let's get to know.
Great. Okay. So before we get into like talking about what the PhD is all about, just a little bit about how you came into insti, uh, thinking of your future plans. What were your expectations for yourself as a freshie? Did you come to insti knowing that, I'm going to go into academia for sure? Or did you have different plans?
Okay, so for me, well, I did not know whether I'm getting into academia, but I somehow really, for me, I really liked this way of learning somehow. When I was doing my coaching for IIT, it was more like you really understand so my coaching center was like you really understand the concepts, and then when you solve problems you get to know the answers. Somehow I really liked it, like I had fun doing that. So I really accidentally came into IIT, I must say. That was not my ambition to, yeah, until I started my coaching, I never wanted to I never had the idea that I would like to go to IIT. Nevertheless, so when I came here, I knew I liked physics, so I really found it nice, and that's why I joined. So I somehow had an inclination towards academia from the beginning, I should say, but I didn't know what I didn't have many plans when I started.
You came in, you didn't have plans to get into academia.
No, let's say that way.
A slight digression, but you say that you did not aspire to get into IIT. So, but you were in the coaching center. How did that happen?
Okay, so well, the thing is, so my father introduced me to this. He said, okay, there is this coaching center. Would you like to join? Because, back then I wanted to, you know, I wanted to try for civil services. So I was planning to take, so here, I think we still have to do this. So you have to choose this group for your 11th and 12th standard. So I was trying to go away. I wanted to pick a course which is away from science. So I thought, okay, let's try to just go for this coaching center so that, you still get to know these things. And that's why I really joined. And honestly, but then after that, it really changed my life because I really liked things back there. So when you learn something, when you can really apply that onto something, it really was nice. Actually, I think I should mention a book I came across, like by Rajni Holiday. Maybe you know about this
Yeah, yeah,
Fundamental of Physics. I
yeah.
really loved that book. I read these chapters, the way the author talks about each topic, and somehow I found it interesting. So yeah, I wanted to continue to do that. Okay, like this is very interesting. We should do this in our life.
So you
So
wanted to move away from science, but Resnick Halliday convinced you otherwise.
yes, yes, indeed. I really thought, okay, this is something interesting. We should do this. Yeah. Well,
Great.
and then of course I prepared, and then I tried to prepare for the exam, get in, clear in, and all these things. Yes.
Yeah, something that we're very familiar with, that process.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
why engineering physics? Was your choice of IIT Madras as a branch? Was that intentional
Mhm.
or accidental? Was your choice of EP intentional or accidental?
Uh, the choice of EP for me is intentional
Mm.
because as I said, I thought, okay, because so it was supposed to, people told me that it's supposed to have this mix of electrical engineering and engineering and physics, right? So I thought that's an interesting topic for me. Out of the choices that I was offered, I didn't want to, I didn't find the other things like, actually my mentor was suggesting me to take chemical engineering or aerospace or these things. But yeah, I think I really wanted to do engineering physics. So
Okay,
I
wow.
picked it. Yeah.
And you're like 17 or 18 and you decided to
Well, thinking about it, it
wanted
does
to.
sound very weird, but somehow, all the choices so far, I always picked what I liked, and it worked out great. Yeah,
That's amazing. That's a blessing, honestly.
I
Um,
agree.
so you're now in science research, really,
Mhm.
but did anyone in your family pursue research? Did you have access to role models who have pursued research? Or did you come across people who have done this before?
Mm, Actually, no, in my family and friend circle, no.
Mhm.
But at least in my insti, there were several alumni who come from IIT. So yeah, I found it nice how they see science, especially when they teach. So I kind of liked it. But yeah, I think I never had role models. But yeah, but it was fun to do this. So
Do you think it would have been better for you to have a role model, or does it
mm,
give you more flexibility without a role model?
I think it does. I think it does if you really. Well, I think I of course I like when I see someone who's like when I see people from IIT or anything else, like I like to take things from them, but maybe it helps. I don't know actually.
Okay.
Maybe it does.
Circling back to this thing about engineering physics,
Hmm.
um, I don't come from a physics background, but
Hmm.
uh, you were interested in physics, and how different was engineering physics from physics as what you thought what it would be?
Okay. Well, actually, I think I must say I because I must say I like engineering physics. From now I would say I really like engineering physics. Um, well, I think it was up to my because up to my expectations indeed. When you apply, you really don't know what the course is about.
Mm.
All you know is what you have done in your school or like what you are aware of as physics. And I think, of course, you learn all of that in engineering physics. So there was nothing disappointing there. And actually, what I liked there was that we could do a lot of electrical engineering courses as well.
Mm.
Engineering physics is called engineering physics, but then you really have uh, you have almost electives from both electrical engineering department and physics department. So I think you that's actually very nice. I find it very useful for research. When you have multidisciplinary knowledge, and I think it's actually very good, because engineering physics is more like applied physics, I would say. And I think it's very good to know that, to do research in science in general.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah.
great. So not too much difference between what you wanted it to be.
No, I think it because we had also IIT. I think it's nice that you can choose your electives,
Yes.
so you really choose what you want to learn, right? So that way, I think it's nice.
That
Mhm.
complete flexibility. Oh, that's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
So coming to your research experiences in Insti,
Mhm.
uh, when did you first realize that you liked research, that you really liked research in physics? Was it that one term paper or that one project that you worked on, that one course? What was it? And at what
Mhm.
point?
Actually, for me, I yeah, it was really long. So I had this course with Kasi Viswanathan sir.
Mhm.
He's probably he's still a professor in IIT Madras. So we had this course on electromagnetics, and so it was very nice. So I liked that course very much. It was very interactive and so on. And by the end of this course, we had a course project.
Mhm.
So we had to build something. Some fancy objects from plasmonics. So that's when actually I think that was a fun project. But then that's where I really started doing research. because we had to visit some fabrication labs to understand how it works, get contacts to, it was really a fancy project. Like we made a flower design on a glass plate, but we had to go through all this process of visiting labs and so on to make that. So I found it nice because it was something new and I liked doing it. So the professor was also nice, like I really liked that course. So, and after that, I think every other semester I was doing some research projects with some professors in the physics lab, physics department. So yeah, that was really the start. So I did this course, which was very nice for me. And then I did a mini project in that course. And I don't know if it's really coincidence, but the topic I'm working today is still the same topic I started in my second year of BTech. Yeah.
So the course you started in your second year of BTech, the course that
I
you
think
did.
so. Yes. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
honestly, I don't fully remember, but I think it's either the second semester or the third semester. Yeah.
So for most of your first year, I know freshies don't have a set plan, but like, what were you thinking of in terms of, my future? What am I going to do with my career? Before this course came along.
I did not really think about it. But when I was at insti, I tried to do everything that was available. So I was no. To answer your question, I think I really had no plans.
Yeah, you
I
were
was
just
really
trying
doing
out whatever you had, whatever opportunity.
I think I didn't have a plan. I mean, I was inclined towards I was slowly realizing that science is more fun, research is more fun. But before that, I didn't have many plans. But well, actually, I was trying to. I did. I was part of this computer vision group for a small period, and then so that's when I was actually also. So I learned to do programming. And insti teaches you so many things. I realized, like, because you're so independent, whatever group you join, you have to do something new. So actually, that's when I started doing programming, and that was also nice indeed. I was there for I think 1 year maybe, and so my first 1 year was more non-core, let's say.
Non-core. So you joined the computer vision group in your first year and you explored non-core things and then slowly moved on into research after that.
Yes.
Great. And you also mentioned that you did a few research projects with professors in insti.
Yeah.
Can you walk somebody who's new to insti, new to the whole thing, through the process of how that works? If they're interested in research, if they like a course, how can they continue to pursue their interest in research within insti?
Okay. I really found that many professors in insti while I was back there, they were very approachable. So they're very nice. So I think the first and foremost thing you could do is, like, when you do a course, you already know that if you like this subject, the professor already gets to know you. Especially, in engineering physics, our class is like only like 20, 30.
Right.
So it's a very small classroom, and you get to interact with the professors very well. And so of course, so when you find that a topic is interesting to you, and this professor happens to be a teacher, then I think it's easy to approach him. You can write an email. Always first you send an email and you share your interests, and you can ask him. And for me, I think that's how I got my second project. So I was working with Professor Vijayan, and it was just that I sent an email and asked for if he has anything, I like if I can do some internship with him, and so he replied to me. So
that's great. So at the early stages, it is not necessary to have like a set research interest. You can just express interest in the project, and it's usually.
Yes, I think so. I totally agree, because I never had experience in what I did.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the same case even when you start a PhD, you don't have enough experience always. So if you find something interesting, I think you should try it. Yeah.
Great. But then after these research projects within INSTI, you also pursued a research internship in Japan.
Yeah.
So could you maybe tell us a bit more about what the experience of figuring out how research practices are maybe different or similar in a new country was like?
So for me, when I went to when I went to Japan, it was really more professional. Because so there was this group meeting, because in INSTI I was still a young intern. I was never involved in the key research meetings or all these things. In Japan, since I was intern, and then there was this group of people, so we always had this weekly meetings, and then people share their research. And then there was this also I think journal clubs, like every people share they discuss some paper, so it was more professional, I would say, for me. And that's when I also started reading more papers, because when I did my internship in IIT, like, I was too young and I don't know how to read papers. It was so hard for me. I take a paper and I spend several days on one paper. And then when I went to Japan, you talk to some PhD. So I actually had close interaction with many people there. So there were master students, PhD students, everyone in one place. So I had more interaction. So I was introduced to more professional research life there.
Yeah. Right. So this reminds me of one more question that I really wanted to ask. You having to pick up the skill of reading scientific papers. If you could learn something earlier than you did about research, what would it be?
Yes, okay, I get it. For me, I think really reading, because now, especially the fundamental concepts, even though it may not be necessary for it may not be necessary for your research, because in the future you may be working in a totally different topic. But then it's always good to read and understand some of these concepts, because for me, now that during PhD, for example, you don't have enough time when you want to go back to the fundamental concepts and learn these things. I really wish I spent more time on that when I was in my bachelor's, for example.
Reading and fundamental concepts.
I think it's really key. You don't have to read so many research papers, but you really need to learn the fundamentals of physics, I think, or whatever field
you're in. Okay, great. And I think the final experience in INSTI that you had was your bachelor's thesis. So how did you go about choosing your topic, your supervisor?
I don't remember anymore, but I think we are supposed to do the thesis in the last 6 months. And then maybe I could be wrong, but let me just say what I remember. But there was this period where you have to do your thesis, like 6 months of your last semester or something like this. But then there was this previous 6 months where you have to like you could do something in excess. The point is that I joined my research group before the start of my bachelor thesis.
Right. Okay.
So I honestly, I don't remember what that was called. What was it, a course or elective? I don't remember. But then I was doing this project. I only spent 1 or 2 hours with this professor. I did my BTech thesis in electrical engineering department with Anand Krishnan. So I spent my first semester actually just doing very small projects. Like I spent 2 hours a week or something, and then I found it nice and interesting. So I continued my BTech thesis on the same. So the first option was, I was still exploring. And actually, I picked the topics of my interest. I shortlisted all the list of professors who were working on this topic. And then again, I sent email to all these professors. And I got a reply from this professor. And
that's great. And you mentioned that you did your bachelor's thesis in the electrical engineering department. Is it possible to do that in INSTI? Is there some bureaucracy you have to navigate? And why did you choose to do that?
I think it's possible even for cross disciplines, but for me it's a little bit more easy because as I said, in engineering physics, you work in both the departments. So I think it's easier to approach as well. But this was, so this is still photonics. So, photonics is it's a topic that fits in all the departments. so, I think it's possible. And also, honestly, I think that for internships, professors or this kind of bachelor thesis, I don't think people expect a lot of experience from you. As long as you have the passion or just a little bit of background work, I think people would like to take you.
So those were about your research experiences in insti. Now, actually getting into the crux of the matter, which is navigating the application process for PhD programs.
Yeah.
So, did you have enough access to networks, and did people in insti help you learn more about PhD application processes? Were there any eureka moments for you about the PhD application process itself during insti?
Okay, yes. So I think first thing is the insti for me, the seniors were actually very helpful. So my immediate seniors and even the batch before that, so they almost always answer any questions you ask. I think they introduced themselves like when we first joined, and then they were there. I think even after I after they left insti. The application process, I was I didn't know so much back then, but for internships, for example, when we applied, we really got a lot of information from my seniors. And when I started applying when I wanted to apply for my PhD, I already decided I'm going to take a job. So I didn't look at the procedure so much back then when I was in insti. But then when I left insti and when I wanted to apply, I did talk to some of my seniors again, and also my batchmates, so to collect some information. So yeah, there was a lot of help for me, I would say, to really do this process. Yeah.
So you did not really apply during insti?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but you applied for research internships?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And regarding seniors, you have been telling me that your seniors were very helpful with information, help, I mean, fundaes. But sometimes, often one tends to get a variety of different kinds of fundaes, different kinds of opinions from seniors. Was there any point where you felt overwhelmed with one person saying one thing, another person saying another thing? And how did you navigate that, if you had that experience?
I think probably it will be mainly towards like which university you choose, or which subject you choose, and these kind of things. And that, yeah, of course, as you said, there will be several personal opinions in that. And at the end, I think you really choose what you. Sometimes you trust your intuition. You somehow I think all the choices will be good in some of their own way, and I think you need to choose what you really want, or what you feel is good for you. So I don't remember if there are specific instances, but I don't know if you have some specific kind of questions. Maybe I can think about it. But in general, yeah, I think there's always a mixed opinions, and you choose. Yeah, at the end you choose what you want. Yeah.
Right. And I really like what you said about all choices being good in some way or the other in hindsight.
Okay.
So yeah. So seniors are one kind of help, but you to find a professor or any other kind of mentor figure that you could rely on for advice on academics during insti. How important were they for you to develop your career in academia?
That's a very important question as well. I think there are several people like that. So I was actually in touch with several professors at least a few, let's say. So even when I was during my time at Insti, I also used to go talk to professors. At least in physics department, they're all very approachable. They're nice. I think it's the same other places as well. And so I just go talk to some of these people to get advice on, like, even for my choice of, like, should I take core, non-core, these kind of things. So I think it's really valuable because sometimes they also suggest you some nice offers. If I remember it correct, I think this internship from Japan was suggested by a professor in in physics department, I think. So when you talk to them, because they know a lot of these things, so they suggest you some places, so it might be a perfect fit for you. So you should do that indeed. Yeah.
Great. So let's move on to talking about your work experience. You mentioned that you went straight into a job and you knew you weren't going to apply during insti. What was that decision? What made you take a job immediately after insti?
So the thing is, when all this placement season starts, that's exactly when also this academic applications needs to be submitted, and it's too much pressure at that moment. Like you're so overwhelmed with too many things. Like people tell you, like, okay, you want to try for these academic positions, and then what if you don't get it? So you need to apply like 10 different universities, and of course you are going to spend money for each application, especially if you're applying for US. And so it's one time it's like an investment you cannot waste, your time, your energy, and everything. So for me, in the beginning, I was so confused because let's say I want to continue academia, that's what I wanted to, and then I was not sure whether I should do a master's or should I jump into a PhD. And it's a long-term commitment, like 5-6 years. So I had several questions in my mind. So my initial thought was, okay, let me do both. I'll try for applications. I'll also let me have a backup job so that in case I don't get a position, I get a good job. And then very quickly I realized this is too much to handle. And then I decided, okay, let me first only do the placements. And if I definitely know that I'm coming back, I will do all this procedure again later, maybe when I'm not so overwhelmed. So that's why I thought, let me just do my placements.
It is a little unconventional, especially in engineering or like in physics domains, to take a break and then do an encore job and then move back into academia, because people warn you against doing that. They're like,
exactly.
So I can imagine how overwhelming it might have been for, a fresh, almost about to graduate you back in 2017. But what was your experience? Was the fact that you took a 2-year work break a hurdle in any way for your doctoral aspirations? Like the way people say it will be? Or was it not?
Okay. I think it's totally, I don't think it's true, at least for my case, because, okay, so first of all, well, the main thing people say to you is that when you go to an encore job, they say that you may want to stick to this job. You don't want to go back to academia, is what people tell you. And so for me, I was like very confident. Oh, no, that's not going to happen to me. I'm pretty sure that I'm coming back. So that's how I joined my job. Honestly, I like my job the first 6 months because I also like programming, and it was also a startup, and you get to do so many things. You're a small group of people, so it was nice. But then eventually I realized this was not fun for me, and I wanted to do, it was not new every day. So I realized that, okay, this is really not what I wanted to do. So I think that if you have, if your passion really lies in academia, I think it doesn't matter. You go for a non-core job if you want to try it out. I think it's totally fine because it doesn't kill your passion if you want to go back, I think. And secondly, the other thing that worries you is you may not have contact. Once you leave insti, you don't have enough contacts to get your information and this kind of things.
Recommendation letters.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the second thing again. So first of all, for recommendation letters, I think if the professor really knows you and you, so it's really important for you to, of course, keep in touch. So, let's think. I don't think I even kept in touch. But anyway, I think if you know this professor very well and he knows your work, doesn't matter, you come back after 2 years, I'm sure he remembers you and he or she remembers you and will be happy to give the recommendation. So that if you have contacts, I don't think it's a problem if you contact them 1 year later, 2 years later. I think it doesn't matter. And the other thing is also like getting fundae from from your seniors or these kind of things as well. I mean, we are well connected like through social networks, and so I don't think, again, that's also not a problem. Like I contacted my batchmates, my seniors, and they all replied to me. None of them said, no, I don't remember you, you can attest me. So I think it's all not a problem. But just to add one more point, so I think the only problem I had was, so in terms of applications, I don't think I had any problem. Well, it was even more relaxed, as you said, you're in a, you have peace of mind, you can apply, focus on the application. So that was all nice. The only regret for me is that I didn't keep in touch with the subject itself. So I really really lost track of all the topics I was interested in. I wasn't staying up to date and so on. So when I started my PhD, it was difficult for me to catch up, because you totally forgot everything almost. So you really have to redo some of these things. That's the only drawback. But if you stay, maybe even if you do a non-core job, if you have some interest, I think it's good to read something or browse something from time to time on the topic of interest. That
Just
way
keep in touch with that field.
Exactly.
You really want to get back to it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
That's great. Because more and more I see people wanting to just get into academia, but not do this straight undergrad to grad school thing. And I think that is not the conventional thing to do in India, but abroad, it is the norm. Like many people take a break after they work for a few years and then come back to academia. So I'm just wondering if you've seen your colleagues be like that. Are your colleagues people who have worked a lot before coming into grad school, or are they also people?
I think many people do have work experience before they joined. I do think that. Actually, also recently came across, I was a part of a seminar, and I also came across several people like professionals, professors, or even entrepreneurs who actually took a very long break. Like they started their career in academia, they went into entrepreneurship for like 10 years or so, and then they come back to, academia, like being a professor again. So I think it's really somehow normal. Yeah. It's just that we don't realize it. We think, yeah, we want to be in this. Indeed, there is this race, like you need to, finish all your PhD, get your professorship within this age. There are some restrictions, I think, but then there are also more. Some of these are really flexible as well. So yeah, we shouldn't be too worried about that. Indeed.
Yeah, we shouldn't tie ourselves down to a timeline.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great. One question regarding your work experience itself. You worked how long? Maybe like 2 years, I think, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever you did as part of your work, has that been useful? Has it been connected to what you do as part of your PhD? What were your learnings, either personal or academic?
Actually, I must say that for me, it was very useful, in the sense that I was a Python. I was working, or I was doing all my programming in Python, and the thing was, my company switched their code base from a different language to Python when I joined. So everyone was learning Python from scratch. Everything was rebuilt from scratch. So I kind of really learned so much in Python. It's a very fancy language now, since you can do everything with that. So that was very useful for me, because in research, or I think when you probably everything works like this, but for physics especially, all your you need to do a lot of programming in your lab as well, depending on what you're doing. So for me, several of my experiments had to be programmed, not with Python, but I use LabVIEW, but still your programming experience really helps. So And then also all this data processing. I know people sometimes use this Origin. There is some software where you can import your data, plot everything manually. But it takes a lot of time, and you collect like hundreds of files of data, and you want to process them all. So I think for me, programming really helps. It makes my life easy. So
that's something you really got your expertise from your
yes,
work.
yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
I think we've more or less covered your experiences with applying to a PhD, having some work experience before the PhD, and now maybe you can shed some light on what it actually feels like doing the PhD in the EU broadly, but in Switzerland as well. But what's new about this?
So what's new about PhD? So I think that the reason I really like it is that every day is new. Like you are really, doesn't matter your topic. Your topic is the same. That's what you're going to work on from the beginning to the end. But then every day is new, because you're trying something new, and then things don't work. Like you spend several days and then things don't work, and then you go back to zero and you do these things all over again in a different way. So I find it that's why I still like it. But honestly, sometimes sometimes you may feel like, oh no, things are not working, and all these things. So so with PhD, the best part is it's as much interesting and as much joy as the same way it can get super demotivating. So because it's a long journey, and what I want to say is that it's very nice if you enjoy every day, and not think too much about this. From day one, you don't want to think about, okay, what are the papers I'm publishing and so on. But I think that's what is nice. So every day you go to the lab, you do something new, you're learning something new every day. So I think that's what is nice about research. And in Europe in general, I'm really living in a beautiful place. So I'm living in Switzerland, so it's really beautiful everywhere. So
Definitely a good environment for you to pursue research.
it is. And I think in Europe in general, I don't know, I actually don't know if it's more general, but I respect that. I really like that people actually have a very good work-life balance here. Like some of my lab mates, like when they finish their work on Fridays, of course, with PhD, I think you have a lot of work, you work on your weekends and so on. But then there are still people who, always do something fun in the weekends, like go hiking or go out. There is a lake here, so people go around. So this is nice, I think, which is required in a PhD life. So that way it is fun, yeah.
Which is absolutely required in a PhD, I think, because there's enough pressure as it is.
Yes.
Self-imposed stress. So,
Yes.
so yeah. Thank you so much, Shakti, for talking about your experiences. I do have a few more questions, so we have come to the last round, but this is like a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So let me start. We have about 5 or 6 questions.
Okay.
What is one piece of academics related advice you would give your freshie self?
I would say love learning what you're doing. Just I think have a little passion in everything you do, whatever it is. I think it's gonna give it will be very it's gonna be useful for you, and it somehow
Have a little passion in everything you do.
Great.
Yeah. Second question. Imagine all the eateries in Insti have to be shut down and you can save only one eatery. Which one would it be?
The one I wanted to save was already shut down when I left Insti. So there used to be this, I don't know the name of this place, but we always call it Brew. I don't know if you're.
Yes. I've seen. Yeah, it got shut down in 2017. Zia.
Yeah, I love that. Was the same year I left. I love that place. We always go there for this nice noodles and coffee.
Yeah.
And when I come back to Insti, I visited Insti a few times, and it was not there. So I was so disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saving.
That was that one place. Yeah, I would say.
Okay. What is the craziest monkey confrontation you had in Sharavati?
Okay, so monkeys, yeah, they're for me. I had my worst. Actually, I had my worst experience on day one
Okay.
when I even came to Insti. Like, actually, I came a day before, I think,
Uh-huh.
and the entire corridor was like empty, and there were several monkeys. So we just came. I came with my mom, and then I put my luggage, and we just opened the door, and this monkey just came and opened the luggage, and it started playing with everything. I had all my files, and I was like, really, we really don't know what to do with that. And then it was drinking water with my water bottle. So I was actually very cautious from day one. If there is a monkey, I just,
Because you
I
learned your
always say
lesson on day
like
one.
away from monkeys. So yeah.
Okay. What was one breakfast item at the mess that you could not tolerate and you would always skip breakfast that day?
Breakfast. I kind of don't remember the menu anymore. Can you remind me what we used to have?
We used to have like idli vada, pongal, aloo
Pongal.
paratha,
I like
jalebi.
pongal when I was in India.
Pongal, okay.
Yeah, I always eat pongal unless I started cooking. So now I eat it. But before in Insti, yes, that's the
You
difference.
didn't like pongal. Okay, great. Okay. So if you could transport one thing from your EPFL Swiss grad school experience to Insti, what would that be?
You mean experience?
Yeah, like what it is about Switzerland or EPFL. If there's something there that you wish you had in Insti, what is it?
Um, hmm, my own office. I
Uh-huh.
like it. My own office. I like
Your
it.
own office. Okay, great. Yeah.
I would like to have a workspace. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, final question. If you woke up tomorrow as the head of the Department of Engineering Physics, what is
Mhm.
one thing you would change about your department?
I think I would give more attention to placements
Mm-hmm.
because that's the main problem I faced. Well, actually, my intention was not to get into a non-core company. I mean, I'm fine. I mean, as I said, I like, but I really preferred a core company. But then with EP, there was almost no core companies for placements,
Mm-hmm.
and you only get the core companies from the electrical engineering department. But then so it's open for EP and to electrical engineering, but then people give preference for electrical engineering students. So
Right.
I think I would make some more efforts into getting core companies for placements, and yeah, I would help a bit there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So thank you so much, Shakti. It was wonderful having you on the podcast. Really,
Yeah, it's great you guys are doing it. I hope it's useful for
thank you
everyone.
so much. And we really hope freshies find some use.
Yeah.
This podcast. And